2026 is coming to a close, and today we're here to talk about our SWU year's resolutions, looking back on 2025 and onto the horizon of 2026, what we hope, what we predict, and the things that we're expecting to see. I'm Jordan from the Colorado Cantina Crew, joined by my teammates Kyle and Sharkey. Welcome in our last podcast on the road, me at my parents' house. So forgive the dust, as they say, but a lot to get into. We're going to break down the last year, talk about the future. I know in general, I'm always kind of excited for the future, but how are you guys feeling?
Yeah, great. We're in that weird time where it's like I'm taking a lot of time off work. I don't know what day it is or what time it is or what I'm supposed to be
Right.
doing, but it has meant that I've had time to get to some events,
Yeah.
some local and stuff. So I've
Yeah.
been going to the local game stores here the last couple of weeks, and that's been fun.
I did the same thing. Got to go to locals, got to go to a
Yeah.
couple showdowns, pick up a bunch of Amadellas, and now we're here.
Yeah, yeah. So
Gotta love that. I'm at the parents' house. No events for me here. I got a PQ this weekend, which I'm excited for, and a lot of good stuff to talk to. No meta stuff today. Let's dive into the year of 2026 and some of our predictions. So the way we're kind of gonna space this out is first dive into some things that we think will happen potentially, our predictions, not the things that we expect to see, but the things that we think might see. Is that said right? Probably not. I blame me being not at my desk. So here we go. Our first prediction that we're going to talk about is who we think the leader of the year is going to be. Do we have any interesting takes here? I mean, we're going into rotations. We'll be talking about rotation coming up here in a little bit. But leader-wise, is there anyone that stands out to you, Kyle?
yeah, and I guess the question here is: Are we taking a leader that's going to be involved? So something that came out in the last three sets, or are we going to take the field of what is yet to come? Right.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that we've really seen is a change in kind of their strategy for how powerful leaders are. And so leaders in general are deploying later or have smaller stat lines. So to answer your question, I think any leader that has an impactful flip on five is in this category for potential future leader of the year. And some of those are ones that are already good, which I think rise with other leaders that are rotating out. A couple of examples are going to be Talzin. Talzin won the world championships. It's already a good leader, but it's not huge in the meta right now. She's a flip on five, really good, and some of the things that push her out go away. I think Sabe also goes into that category. Powerful leader, flip on five, kind of on the fringe of the meta. Only going to get better when some of the why are you not just playing this leaders like Han 1 go away.
Yep.
Right. So that's where I would start.
So if I had to put the pressure on you to call one of them out, who would it be?
Talzin. I think specifically Force is going to be even more powerful than it was. Force has already been impactful. We're going to see more Force cards. Maybe not in this set coming up, being Outlaws, but overall, Force bases and Force cards will continue to be, Force cards in general will continue to be printed, and having a Force based strategy will only get stronger. So Talzin, I think, is one of the most powerful leaders in that area. So I think for now, I would predict Talzin.
So that's actually my prediction as well. So we'll kind of dive in and do this at the same time. For me, I think you're spot on with the 3/7 stat line, with the ability to impact the board when she's on the leader side, when she's on the unit side, good synergies, different ways to play. Like we've seen yellow, we've seen red, we've even seen green from time to time to varying degrees of success. But I think that it might be as simple as us just saying, hey, it's a 5-drop leader that has a great stat line and a great ability.
Yep, totally agree. I want to hear Sharky's prediction. I've got another area or another angle that I think we'll see a rise in power. But Sharky, what do you think?
So I thought of an interesting take on this one, and it's a different tack than you guys did. I actually think leader of the year in some ways might actually be both Han 1 and Han 2, in that their absence is going to be felt far more than I think any leader that we currently have that will make a presence known. You know what I mean? I think the absence of those two leaders will have a much bigger impact on how people evaluate and view the game than anything that can possibly come out in the next year or so, because everyone's still going to be readjusting to the new baseline. And I think those two have kind of spoiled us in some ways in terms of what to expect to be able to do on 4, 5, or 6 for your resources.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. And, even from the other perspective, they've done really great in the early parts of, or the late parts of 2025. We don't know if they're going to be banned or suspended going into 2026. It's very possible that they just have such a big run of domination leading up to March that they could even factor in from a non, philosophical perspective as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise, if I had to pick a leader that existed already, Talzin's probably the one I would have also chosen for the exact reasons you guys did. But like, I'm gonna go with the Hans. Like when they leave, everything's gonna be reevaluated to an extent that I don't think we're ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be exciting. I mean, that's one of the reasons
I
I'm looking forward to rotation. But I think the other angle is pilot leaders in general. Some of the ways that we handle pilot leaders are handled via cards that exist today that are going to go away, like entrenched, right? Easier access to upgrade removal, like just the colorless, confiscate. Some of these things go away, which kind of opens the door to more pilot type strategies. To your point about Han going away, the Hans are so good because they cheat resources. Are there other leaders that can fill that space that are not as good right now that can cheat resources in some way? A couple off the top of my head would be like Piet. Piet saves your resources. He's already good. But outside of Piet, perhaps, oh my goodness, I'm spacing her name. She makes your force leader, makes your events
Morgan,
cost
right?
one less.
Oh no, that's Bear.
Don't be Bears.
Bears.
I was gonna say, don't be ridiculous talking about
Well,
Morgan.
Yeah,
I
well,
actually think I was going to say that based on the same line of argument, Morgan might actually be able to show up because while her discount is conditional right now, she's just a worse version of the unconditional resource cheating. Frankly, it may not be a bad thing to re-examine her.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
be
she's
too
going to
harsh.
do it here, but I mean, I do think that resource cheating is good, and they have learned that by putting conditions on said resource cheating, you're not going to have a Han problem.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was my point. So some of the best leaders going away cheat resources. Boba Fett did the same thing before he was banned, right? So we're going to take an initial look at any leader that can cheat resources in any way is worth evaluating.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say from the overall too many Hans perspective, after we see the Han 1 and Han 2 leave the game, Han 4 pilot will be probably the best combination of solid leader with good synergies around it, combined with the ability to cheat from a massive perspective.
Yep.
Yeah.
And all of it's conditional at least, so I'll take that.
Yeah. So I mean, if we get the Morgan glow up, I'll eat my crow. That'll be like the biggest crow eating that we've seen on the podcast so far, I think. As we go on, if you guys have prediction, comment down below and let us know what you guys think, because we've been thinking about this a little. We didn't compare notes at all because we wanted to be able to tell each other that we were wrong and stuff like that. But let's move on to our next question, being fully subjective outside of a number perspective. So let's look at it from our enjoyment perspective and also from the perspective of how big this event will be. With our next question that we'll go into, it's what's going to happen in Vegas this year? Do we expect the Galactic Championship to be bigger this year than it was in 2025? And overall, do you think it's going to be better?
Go ahead. I was first last time.
About like vibes here. I think it'll be a much bigger celebration. It won't be like as open, but there will be a much bigger drive to qualify, because then you won't be able to play without, like, you have to actually qualify. And there'll be a last chance qualifier, but it's a little different this time, I think. And so I think it'll be bigger from a hype perspective and probably not quite as big from a number of players perspective.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm worried. I hope it's bigger. I want the game to grow and get bigger and better. But I don't know. Maybe it's just around here, but anecdotally, you hear about it in other videos. You hear about it from other players. Just kind of a slowdown in overall participation at local game stores. We'll talk about that later. Obviously, the value of cards and product going down. I mean, those are not good trends for us to expect to see things jump and get bigger and better for our next World Championships. I'm hopeful that it will be. I hope that we see all kinds of cool stuff, and we're going to get into that with some of our predictions and things we're hoping for. But I'm a little worried. If I had to predict right now, which is what you're asking me, I would say at same level at best.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're fair perspectives. It's a big trip to make, right? It's an expensive trip to make. And if you were originally feeling FOMO last year about going, oh man, I'll make it next year. 2026, I'll be there, I'll qualify. Maybe your temptation to actually go out and do that is lower based on some of the issues that we ran into last year. I think we're going to see a slight downtick in overall attendance. And it's not necessarily just from a SWU perspective, like the logistics complaints, etc. I think just in general, 2026 is trending towards being a little bit of of a worse year. I mean, the economy is pretty bad. Traveling overall is down. Also, when we look at Vegas and their tourism sector, it's been a really big downturn for them, with just even from a convention perspective, not even just from a hey, let's go on vacation perspective. So I think that the attendance will be slightly down, but I really do think that the experience and the logistics and all of the stuff that we've complained about will be a lot better. I do think that we've seen, especially in the past like 3 months, a lot of accountability and a lot of like addressing these topics and diving into the things that need to get fixed. For instance, over on the Main Deck YouTube channel, there was a great organized play interview recently, and the questions weren't avoided. They were almost snapped, instantly answered. Like it's clear that they're working on this behind the scenes. And personally, I know I speak for both of you guys when I say this. I really respect that. And the only way to improve is by like admitting that there was things that could use improvement, right? And you take that first step. Sharky, I see you nodding your head. You have anything to add there?
No, I mean that's kind of what I meant by the hype part being I think a bigger part of the experience this time. I think you're right. I think they're gonna sort out most of the logistics stuff. I think they're gonna there might be fewer people here, but I think the fact that you had to qualify in the way that you did by earning the points instead of just winning a PQ, you can earn points, you can grind through it. I think that'll mean more to people too. And so it'll be a better, I think, experience overall, even if it's a little bit of a downturn in terms of attendance. And there's probably some things that are going to hold a few things. There's always going to be problems, but I don't think they'll be as bad as last year in
Yeah.
terms of like the line.
No, I could almost guarantee there won't be as big of a line issue as there was last year, because
Yeah.
that would be crazy. The only other thing I'll add here is that I think that next year, this in 2026, we're going to see a slight step back to take a big step forward. That's my hope, and that's something that we'll talk about a little later as well. Going on to the next thing, and it's kind of goes involved with this as well, because if rotation does play a big factor in if the 2026 Galactic Championships will be fun, will be well attended and stuff, there's a lot of different perspectives on rotation in general. Personally, this is the first card game that I've played that had a pure rotation system. Kyle and I both played the old Decipher Lord of the Rings game, which was more of like a block system that never really fully rotated, but I guess you could make arguments of semantics there as well. So Kyle, let's start with you. Will rotation be a good thing at the end of 26, when we're sitting here doing our the same podcast that we'll do going into 2027? Will this be remembered as a good thing?
Yeah, I'll say yes, and it better be, right. At least for myself right now, I'm feeling a little bit of fatigue with the current meta, with the current, strategies, cards, lists, these sorts of things. I think this is a chance for rotation to really shake things up, brighten up the meta, attract people, give people a fresh start if you're looking to get into the game, that sort of thing. So yes, I think in a number of ways it's going to be looked at very positively. It's also the first set of a new block, right, or of a new set of three, and that's always supposed to be one of the most powerful sets. And some of the problems that we've had with existing sets are underpowered sets or underpowered cards, that sort of thing. Being the first set of a rotation of three sets, I expect the power level to be very high, to drive a lot of excitement. Hopefully, get people really showing up and excited to play the game. So yes.
Sharky?
You covered everything I had. I think it will be a positive. I do think that there will be a bit of a dip in the beginning. It'll be one of those where a lot of the people who have gotten used to and grown fond of certain things that exist in the game now, not quite knowing what to do. But once I think everyone, like once the set gets its feet under it, I think it's going to take off in both attracting new players and kind of reshaping how the game is played. And I think it's going to be generally a positive. In fact, I think it kind of has to be, because this is probably a make or break kind of thing to see how they handle rotation for the game overall. And I think that from everything that I have seen, I'm enjoying the direction they're taking it, and I believe that they will get it right. But they kind of also have to. So.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, in the same way as the Galactic Championships probably has that same sort of pressure internally and externally. I guess another question that I would pose is this like a good thing for casual players or a bad thing for casual players?
Yeah, that's a tough question, right? Because you're going to see kind of both arguments. People who have invested in the game, bought a lot of cards, say, "Well, I have all these cards that are useless now." And there's going to be the eternal format. We'll see how much that's supported, how much people want to play it. I mean, we already saw the introduction of Trilogy, and that I've never heard of anybody playing it, right? I mean, I've seen events posted for it, like at larger events, but I don't know of anybody who played in them, that sort of thing. So, it may be that some of those cards go away. Maybe that's solved partially by reprints. But for newer players, if you're trying to get in the game, it means a lot less product you have to buy. If you want to start this coming March, instead of looking for cards from 6 sets, you're looking for cards from 1, 2, 3, 4 sets, right? So less to try to obtain, less to try to a lowered barrier of entry to be able to get a collection to make competitive decks. So good and bad, right?
I want to
Yeah.
draw a quick delineation here. Casual players aren't going to care.
Okay.
Most of the time, casual players are going to play the cards they want to play, which is the cards that they have. I think that it's the less grindy competitive players, like like the ones that want to play in tournaments, that want to play in like legal tournaments, that will have the most issue with it. Because like I said, like you ever play casual Magic, you can still run cards all the way back 15, 20, 30 years almost. And it doesn't matter what you play because you're just playing with your friends on the kitchen table. Rotation won't affect those players. It's the ones that have to, or that feel like they have to go a little extra far to be able to play a deck in a tournament that they like, and that that they have to reevaluate where they are. And so they're probably not going to like the reinvestment and stuff necessarily, but I think they'll come around to it.
Yeah, I think you phrase it well. Sharkey, Kyle?
Oh, I was just going to say, as you were saying that, I wonder if we're going to have people show up to like the first kind of store level events, not being aware of rotation, not understanding what's going on, right? Somebody's showing up with their Kira
Yeah.
deck and I can't play this, right? Like I would think most people at a local game store showing up would be informed, but I guess it wouldn't be surprising. When we had our first set of bans, I know there was a local player who did show up with Boba Fett and had no idea, right? And so we just kind of like, well, we'll just play it one more time. But, I guess I could see that happening.
So I guess some of the things that I think about are more from like a financial perspective. Like maybe it's an argument that it helps new casual players. And I get there is a delineation from like the ultra at home kitchen table type stuff that Sharky's talking about. But I think it could be seen as kind of daunting of like having to reset everything. Hey, I just spent X amount of hundreds of dollars being able to play the game that I want. This is a thing. I got other expenses, other responsibilities. Now it has to start all over again. I could see that being a little bit of a point of pushback.
I think it'll be a pushback. Like I said, at first I think there'll be a little bit of a dip, but I don't think it will take long to get used to the new environment.
Yeah.
I think
So-
once that new environment hits you, the excitement will pick up.
Mm-hmm. So on my end, like I think it'll be a good thing, but I'm a little unsure. I in the beginning when I first heard about rotation, I was like, why? Like Luke is awesome, Han is awesome. This is really back when like Luke and Han Solo were like the two biggest 7 drops that you were playing on the heroism side. Like, why would we not play Vader? But as we get later, I do feel this fatigue that Kyle was mentioning in terms of deck building and ideas. And obviously I've been playing a little Sabe since I've made that video and stuff. And a lot of the comments are like, maybe it's just Han. And it's going to be refreshing in a way to be outside of that. This leader might just be better because of X or Y. I think this is a conversation that really doesn't have a right or wrong answer. It just has people experiencing things from a different perspective answer, if that makes sense.
I also think in the case, like you just mentioned, like what if it was just better as X? I don't think that conversation goes away. It just changes from Han to the next one is, well, what if it's just better as Sabe?
Yeah.
And there's something else someone's trying to do.
It's just like the length and staying power of that conversation has been so long, right? So I could see it. Another really important one. Go ahead.
Yeah, say from a general player perspective, though, like we're focused on competitive, right? So to me, this doesn't matter. But for your average player, they want to play the characters they like, right? So what happens when like Vader goes away? Like we have a current Vader, but he doesn't get played that much, right?
He's
the
not
7-drop
the
Vader. Yeah, he's like the Vader, right? When the Vader goes away,
Vader.
how focused do they be on reprinting leaders of characters people want to play? Like Sharkey, you're a good example. Cad Bane's about to go away. I think you're probably going to get a new Cad Bane. You love Cad Bane, right? But what if you didn't, right? You kind of like, it's like, oh, this is the character I love, and now he's gone, right? Like, hopefully I get something else.
It's something I've been examining for most of the year, just to be like, all right, try a few things out, see what you like, see what happens, and if they print me a Cad Bane, obviously I'm going to pick them up. But like, I have a few ideas in mind, so
sure. Yeah. And we'll hit some rapid fire questions hitting on some of those key cards later on in the pod. That's a tease. Going to the next question here, kind of connected to all these things. But as we sit back at the end of 2026, looking back, will SWU be more popular then than it is now? To be fair, we're kind of in a little bit of a down period as we were compared to the earlier points of this year, going back towards the summer, the Galactic Championship, both post championship and in the lead up going to the championship for different reasons. There's competition, there's, Riftbound being involved, just life, all the stuff that we mentioned earlier with the external factors that lead to Vegas travel and all these different things. But Kyle, I ask you the question, as we look back, will SWU be more popular than it is now? And you could pick whatever metric that you seem to be appropriate. It's a little bit of a general question.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of goes, it's very similar to the world's question. I want it to be. Do I think it will be? No, I'm hoping for flat at best, right? They are doing a lot of really cool things to hopefully drive this, right? We've started to see cards in like major box stores. We've started to see, if you follow any of the judge program, there's like the ambassador program. They're trying to, there's different angles and different ways to try to draw in additional players. They recently made product changes to hopefully make some product more desirable or, valuable in some way. So I think they're taking kind of some baby steps in the right direction, but I haven't seen anything major enough, at least in our local community, that I think is going to drive us in that direction, right? We've seen a few new players, but we've also seen some players go away. It's been kind of flat, as I said, right? And to your point, some of these other games like Riftbound are scary because we've seen some players in the community leave for that, right? We were worried about it. It hasn't been a huge amount. Some people just play both, but I'm not going to name names, but I can count on my hand a few that have gone, right, for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair perspective, and it's not just Riftbound. Like Gundam is super popular right now. One Piece is a little bit in a comeback moment here as they head towards their first rotation. I actually saw that the One Piece, one of the actors from the live action One Piece, top 8'd like a 360 person One Piece region. Imagine you're sitting across a game and your opponent in a top 8 is just freaking Zoro is his name, or Soro or something like that. What an awesome thing. Imagine you sat down next to, Daisy Ridley or any of those actors. You'd be sitting there like, what the hell? So I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. Sharkey, what do you think?
I tend to agree. I think it'll be a lot of the year looking like either stagnant or even dropping a little bit. But I think that the rotation, once it kicks in, the momentum, like it's going to drop a bit. And then I think that by the time Worlds hits, it's going to be another one of those like that. I'm expecting to drive a bunch of the hype, and I think the hype will carry over. So if you took a snapshot from right now and compared it to a snapshot 1 year from now, I do think that the overall will increase. I think it'll be a little bit of a lag, and I think it'll be a little bit of a rough spot in the middle of the year once everybody gets used to rotation. But I do believe that there will be enough new things driving growth that they will continue to grow. I don't know if it'll grow as much as it possibly could or can. I don't know that they'll nail that maximum, but I do think that it will grow overall by raw numbers.
I think those are fair predictions. And also, we're no longer the new kid on the block, right? Like there's a new wave of TCGs that have come in. And then this is also, again, very subjective, could be local specific. Let us know if your locals are more popular now than they would be. For us, I would say our peak local in the past, calendar year was likely right around Jump to Light speed. We could expect about 15 to 20 people at all of our little locals, and since then it's gone down, and part of us is us, right? Part of it is us not going as much and playing elsewhere and whatever, and we're working on fixing that too.
Well, some of that's what I was excited to see, a 16-person showdown 2 weekends in a row at Mythic this weekend. Like that's actually an increase from the past showdowns that they had last set. So
yeah,
that seems like it's not much, but it is a bit of progress that we had compared to where we were even 3 months ago.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing. That was a very positive sign, right? That's very encouraging. Even up here, I think I messaged you guys. We had a draft a couple weeks ago. We actually had enough people to show up to fire 2 pods, 16 for a local draft. I was like, wow, that's great, right? So there are positive signs, and I hope it continues in that direction.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm usually probably the most skeptical amongst the three of us. The most, maybe not. This might happen. That's just kind of my nature. But I actually think that this year is going to lead to quite a lot of mainstream Star Wars growth. And I think one of the advantages of being connected to Disney, Star Wars in general, is that there is just so much good potential IP. The question is, does the IP hit? Is it well executed? I could argue in the past 5 years, we haven't seen super well executions, things that I've enjoyed, things that niche communities have enjoyed. I think Andor is, universally loved. Mandalorian, when it came out, was really hot, but the past prequel or or the sequels rather weren't really well received. Acolyte had a lot of different fanfare around for different reasons. I personally liked Ahsoka, not as well received, critically and stuff like that. But in this calendar year coming up, we have the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. We have the Maul cartoon coming out, some great video games on the horizon. After that, we have the Ryan Gosling Starfighter movie that's coming out. So I think there's a lot of potential to kind of ride that Star Wars wave. That might be too optimistic with how negative overall the Star Wars fandom is. But one thing that I remember so well going back to the Star Wars Decipher and the Decipher Lord of the Rings games is that they really went as the IP went. Every time a new movie came out, that block was going to be a heater, especially the first couple blocks. Kyle, I'm sure you experienced this as well. You were older than me at the time too, so you probably had a little bit more sense of popular culture and not just me going to a game store.
Oh, absolutely. I was one of those guys that when episode 1 came out, I was in a tent outside movie theater, camped
Yeah.
out for, God, I think it was almost 4 days. My mom couldn't believe we were doing this, right? She's like bringing us food and stuff. We're sitting in a tent outside the movie theater. So the hype was real, right? I'm not sitting in a tent for any movie these days, right? That's just not a thing.
Sure.
But it was great, right? Whether I liked the movie or not is beside the point. The hype was definitely there, and it brought some of that same hype, I think, is what you're getting at, to the card game, right? So eventually Decipher started doing some of the episode 1, 2, 3 stuff in the card game. It was very exciting. It brought in a lot of new young fans specifically at the time, right? So which was super cool, right? So I mean, this year we did have Andor, which I would argue is probably the best bit of Star Wars that has been released in a very long time. Did we see that draw in players? I don't know, but that's a television show. I think a movie, Mandalorian and Grogu, could be a different story. If that really hits and is very exciting, I think it could have a similar kind of impact response of bringing people interest to Star Wars generally.
Don't get me wrong, I loved Andor. I thought it was great, but I don't think it appeals to as like wide an audience as the average Star Wars IP. And not to say it's bad, good, or otherwise. I think that part of that lack of appeal is what made it so charming to people that do enjoy that sort of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was one of those young kids, right? For episode 1 of the old Star Wars game, that was the first set that I was actually able to like buy a pack of that wasn't aftermarket. That wasn't an old leftover being sent in. Like back when I was playing that game, my access to cards, the internet wasn't as sophisticated, or I was 11, so maybe I wasn't as sophisticated, but I was like going through the single packs, taking people's extras in bulk and stuff. So for me, being able to play the episode 1 cards, it was really liberating for me because I actually had like options and how I could play and what I could play, as opposed to just playing the same thing because that's what I had access to out of the goodness of everybody's heart. Pat Zygo, shout out to you. Appreciate you all these years later. So that's it for like the big topics that we're going to discuss and stuff like that. We have some rapid fire things to go into, but before we do, I want to kind of give a little preview to something we've been working on here at the Cantina Crew, and that's our new custom initiative token from our friends over at Premier Games. Two-sided. We're going to be playing this, seeing this, and we'll be doing some giveaways for all you guys as well. We got some great stuff coming from Premier Games. So lead tokens, go to Premier Games store, Colorado Cantina Crew, and the checkout, 10% off, and you might even get a chance to win one of these special Cantina tokens. Join the crew, as we like to say. All right, so going on to some rapid fire stuff. We're all sports fans here. I love like the rapid fire, no holds barred, just kind of going through and seeing what's there. So here's our rapid fire number 1 for you. The aforementioned Luke and Vader, and add any other ones you want into. But will we see reprints of either of these cards in the 2026 calendar year?
Yes.
Ooh. Interesting. Rapid fire, I'm going to say no, but it will be reprinted. It'll just be the following year.
The following year. Is that when Legends comes out, or that new set?
Yeah. I think they're going to give us a year off, right? Give us a fresh meta, not reprint it, but it will return, right? Some of these iconic cards will come back. I just don't think immediately.
I think it's coming back.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I have a hard time seeing SWU without 2 of these cards. The other ones I could understand, but these 2 are just so like, they're just so crucial to the theme. Maybe Kyle's right. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Our next question here: will we see a card banned or suspended, not including rotation, Sharkey? No technicalities here, in 2026. We saw Boba in 2024. We saw Force Throw, Django, TDR. What else? Is DJ in 2025. 2026, Sharkey. What do we get?
I do believe something will be suspended. It's real. I mean, even if they've improved the processes, there's going to be something that slips through probably. However, am I going to call it what it is? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, I can see arguments for like 5 cards right now, but like by the end of next week, that could change too. I don't
Yeah.
think that they'll suspend. I don't think that there will be a full year of no suspension. I think that's a really tough goal to set for yourself. So I don't think that that should be the goal. I think that they can get most of the way there, though. Maybe only one.
Yeah, I think that was an easy yes, and I think it's a good thing, right? I like that they're involved in the meta. They don't let things get to the point where it's uber frustration. Could you imagine had they not suspended Django? We had to live with that for months on end. I probably would have taken a break from the game entirely. Right? So yes,
popularity tipped. We're far down.
Okay, so I agree. I do think there will be one. To follow up here, will it be prior to rotation or post rotation? Sharky?
Ooh, I tell you what, I'm going to go with what I think I want to see. And I would say, yes, something we suspended early.
Agreed. I think it's also a yes, but not because it needs to happen, but because they saw the success of shaking up the meta kind of mid-set with Force Throw, and I think we do it again.
I can see that.
I'm on page with that too, and it's really not necessarily from a game perspective, even though I think there's a lot of merit to those discussions, whether it's data vault, resupply, blue leader, etc., whatever. Mickey D made a great blog over on Bothan's website. You can check it out. Great, really long and in-depth descriptions there. But I think from a marketing perspective and an interest perspective, this is the type of news that gets people reinvigorated mid-cycle. As you're planning things out in your marketing calendar, you're going to say, okay, well, around Christmas, I have my Black Friday budget. It's going to see a peak there. Around this movie release, it's going to see a peak there. This is one of those unexpected consequences where you can get more eyeballs on things. You can have content creators making content about something new, news organizations covering new things. And I think that really does go a long way to getting more eyeballs on the product, which everyone knows is kind of universally needed right now. So that's the prediction. Again, let us know what you think. Moving on to the next one here. Okay, we have this beautiful pre-con Twin Suns thing here. Admittedly, I'm still yet to play a single game of Twin Suns. So my question to you, Kyle, will we see Twin Suns trilogy, Eternal, whatever new format pop up? Will we see something new catch on in 2026? We could even include limited here if you'd really like to, but probably a little bit of a delineation there.
Yeah, limited is already there, and that's going to help me answer my question, because the reason limited has popped more to the forefront is because it's part of the competitive play cycle, right? There's, I'll be traveling out to Milwaukee and playing in competitive limit for, qualification points. Obviously, they've already announced limited is going to be part of Worlds. So I'm also going to say yes to your latter question, because I think we're going to see other format PQs. Whether you want them or not, there will be a PQ somewhere around you that perhaps is Eternal or perhaps is Trilogy. And so you will be forced to play it if you want to go to that event. And so, yes.
Sharky?
I'm going to modify the question slightly and pick one of them that I think will be the most popular of the bunch of the new ones. And I think that's Trilogy, because I think Kyle actually nailed it in that, yes, those will all be at least a little bit more popular than they were, particularly because of the competitive support. But I think Trilogy will see the most growth of the bunch.
Interesting. I'm supposed to say rapid fire, but I want to break the rules, and I'm the host, so I could do that. You guys cannot do that. But I personally, I can't see it with Trilogy. I think that Trilogy just brings me back to the days, again, Star Wars Decipher getting a lot of airtime today, but bringing 2 decks to something kind of sucked. Like having to, and now this is 3, but I'm saying 2 decks for Star Wars, all right, the old one. I could see Twin Suns gaining a lot of casual popularity, but if I had to wager that one of those 3 sees the most growth, it's going to be Eternal, because we've already heard, like Kyle mentioned, that there will be Eternal PQs. It was confirmed on main deck on that video that I mentioned. And I think having that sort of support, it's like, necessity is the mother of invention, that sort of thing, where it kind of just drives you in.
Hey, Jordan, let me ask you a question. You are out of town from Colorado, and you have a PQ this weekend. How many decks did you bring with you?
Okay, so I'll say it a little differently in that what I bring to an event is a challenge. And you know what's even funny? I found out that our buddy Eek Foyle is coming to the PQ this weekend in Branson, and I was DMing him today. Shout out Nick, saying, "Hey, can you bring me a couple cards? I forgot." But yeah, I brought like 6
How many
decks.
decks did you bring with you? Exactly. Like,
I brought
wouldn't be that much.
Sabe, Thrawn, Emperor, Han 1, Han 2, all the different stuff.
You just
I
make them up
actually,
yourself.
with some Amazon gift cards for Christmas, I bought this new Gamegenic product to hold it all. This is like the card layer 3 or something. So Sharkey, at my next trip, you'll see even more decks, which is good.
See, you
but
could
yeah,
make a trilogy for all of us.
but at the event, I want to be like, streamlined and simple. But I hear you, and that was a good insult. I appreciate it. Okay,
I think it's good for the game though if Twin Suns continues to grow, right? If you look at like compared to Magic, you see a lot of local gameplay, people playing the Commander format, which is very similar. I haven't played it myself, but to my understanding, it's similar. You look at the Store Showdown that Sharkey and I played this weekend. People were playing Twin Suns before it when I arrived. They were playing it
between
during,
rounds, actually.
Yeah, between rounds. That was interesting. I know at my local game store up here, there's a group of guys that they only play Twin Suns every single week. They never join us for competitive play, and that's fine. But they're always there playing Twin Suns, and it just means more people playing the game. I mean, I know I have the big Twin Suns mat. I've never used it, but I've got it. I know, the Nerd Slayer likes to play it, so I'd like to get some opportunities.
It's fun enough. And I agree with you that it is good for the game to have a popular format like that too. So
yeah. No, I agree. And I think that Twin Suns is, again, speaking completely out of my ass because I've never played. I don't know the rules. I know there's a blast token, another thing, but I think it's a cool concept and it makes it more social and a good way to build community and make friends. And I think, we're all really fortunate that when we started playing, we all just met a group of people that we all kind of clicked with, have similar interests, similar age group. I know it can be daunting when you don't have that. I remember the first time that I went into a store to play, I met some of our teammates now, like Todd was there, Nico was there, Todd Neary as well. The next day I went to Collectormania, met Travis, Bat, and Alex Goldsmith, welcomed me in. I do think that the Twin Suns conversation is really good there because how many times do you have an extra spot? It's almost like playing pickup basketball. Right? Like who needs a fifth? Who needs a fourth? Right? Who needs this? And I think that's just a great thing overall. You know what? I'm going to make a promise to myself and all of the viewers out here. We will all play at least one game of Twin Suns, one session of Twin Suns before we do this podcast heading into 2027. You guys can hold it to us as well. That's the last rapid fire question that I have. Do you guys want to add anything? Go off book? No graphics, any ideas before we head on to some predictions and hopes that we're really excited to see?
Nothing off the top of my head. I'm excited for this next category, though. I got a few things I want to touch on.
I'm ready for you to just go off on that one. So hit it.
Let's do it. I got to do this screen share again. And I will say, I really like how we do our setup in Denver, but it's nice that I don't have to resize anything as I'm doing this. It all kind of auto resizes. So the next thing is a new hope for 2026. And I liked how we have all the hope cards here. So these are our hopes, our dreams, what we want, what we hope to see, what we really expect in our mind's eye to happen. Maybe potentially could be kind of Sharky. Since Kyle was so adamant, we'll have him start off. Kyle, what is your new hope for 2026?
Yeah, the thing I'm really looking forward to, this year or hopeful for is a return to that feeling of the local game store hype. Having a big group show up, being able to fire every single week, right? That feeling when you win a prize pack, hopefully you get to open it and there's a chance you're going to get something good in there, right? And so, I really want to see kind of that return to the game store, that return to the excitement. And so I have a couple of ideas. One reasonable idea and two probably crazy ideas, but I think it'd be fun to talk about. So, the first one was, I don't know how many people out there really follow the SWU judge program, but they have announced something new. It's the ambassador program. And so really anybody can be an ambassador. You just answer a couple of questions. But what the ambassador is supposed to do is help grow the game, right? Either through what we do here, like through YouTube content, right? Or by actually showing up at your local game store and teaching people how to play the game. Maybe show up with Battle of Hoth and say, hey, would you like to learn how to play? Like, let's run through it, that sort of thing, right? So I think more people getting involved with just trying to host events, trying to get things going, working with your local game store, that's going to be a big help. But let's get into the crazy ones because those are a little more fun, right? So, the first one was, today you achieve points for Worlds qualifications through PQs, SQs, RQs. We've kind of talked about this in the past, but I don't think it's that crazy of an idea. Why not award some points for local events? I know that store showdowns aren't supposed to be competitive level events, and we're not talking many points here. Why not throw some points to a local game store to run a store showdown? Let's say you can only earn 10 points per set total, right? So if you win one store showdown, you can earn 10 points, and that's all you can earn for the full set across all store showdowns at all stores. That way we don't have people like trying to farm store showdowns for points. But I know I'd be a lot more excited to show up to store showdowns if I could earn points, even if it was 5 points. Doesn't matter to me. I just want to drive people there, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's counterproductive to what they want to do with the point system, but I want more ways to drive people into the store. And to me, that would be an obvious way to drive me to the stores, right?
I think a 5 or a 10 point payoff is a good idea there too, because it'll drive more people into the showdown. I think that's a good. I wouldn't call that one crazy, actually. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Okay. Let's go a little more crazy then. So my next one was, we talk about this as a team. We're a competitive team, and we have nights where we'll sit down and we'll play. And there's online platforms out there, and we're at different physical locations. We're trying to include everybody. And there have been nights where we've gone towards more online play. I'm not going to mention the platforms, but we decide to do it there because it's like convenient. But the counter effect there is it draws us away from the store. It draws people out of local events. There could have been a local event that night we could have tried to go to, or at least some of us could have tried to go to, but we're playing online. My question is, are these online platforms bad for the game? And maybe the crazy idea is, should FFG go after them? I mean, they are using their IP, right, to build these online platforms. What if these platforms went away? Well, then I'd have to go to a game store to play, right? So again, this is in the land of crazy ideas, but I don't know. Maybe if it went away, when this game first came out, those platforms didn't exist. We all had to go to the game store to play, and I loved it, right? And I just feel like we're being drawn out. So how are we going to get people back? Maybe that's crazy idea number 2. What do you guys think?
I think that one's a little crazy is the wrong word. It's a little heavier on the hand, a little heavy-handed for that one. I think that there's probably some kind of balance you can strike between completely shutting it down and maybe finding a way for FFG to profit off of it. However, I do see your point about sometimes it's just easier to logistically line something up. And I don't know how you solve that issue in an easy way. That one might require a little more thought, a little more logistics. But I like the concept because, we should be playing a lot more on paper, for lack of a better term. Like, we should be playing with the cards. And honestly, it's probably better practice that way too. The more you think about it, like, you're going to make less mistakes in a tournament game if you're physically able to move the things around. Like, you remember to ping, you remember to do whatever trigger you have there. If you're physically doing it and not letting somebody else automate it for you, then you're way more likely to get better practice out of it. So I think you have points that are good there. I don't quite know how one would do that in a way that isn't destructive to the game as well. But I like the concept. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. What do you think, Jordan?
So I don't really agree. I also think in general, like, it's not a great way to make friends by suggesting something. It's a tough conversation and all the factors, and it's to suggest legal, the whole thing. Obviously, it's in the crazy, outlandish perspective. The issue that I have with this is that, one, accessibility to games is really important to help grow. I think that is one part. And also, like, Kyle and I have discussed this tonight. We have different perspectives, but I don't think that the practice is as good in those situations. I think there are things that you definitely benefit, like playing in paper, doing all these things physically. I think there's a lot of good points there, but I think that your time to your value is a little out of whack, and you're adding a lot more variance. There are these dueling concepts of us trying to improve as a team, get better placements, get this, get that, while also growing the game, being good ambassadors, teaching people how to play. And sometimes you don't have time for all of those things. And I'm sure we've all experienced, you go to a local and you play 2 beginner players and you don't really feel like you've benefited from this interaction from a competitive perspective, but from the human perspective, you probably do benefit from it, and they probably benefit from it as well. So I think there's a lot of back and forth there to kind of get through.
I think my thread the needle middle ground would be find a way that that there could be some kind of way to profit off of this so that the game isn't only so easy to access online, but also can be there if needed as a tool. And I don't know really what that line would be, but I'm like, what comes to mind is like MTG Arena comes to mind. Something similar. There is an online platform that exists that was made by the company or was acquired by the company. And it was able to, you can use it for practice, but it doesn't completely eliminate. I don't know. There's probably some kind of middle ground, but that's where my brain goes immediately.
Yeah. Well, and this segment was what is my hope for the year? That's my hope. I hope that we're in the stores more. We have bigger attendance in the store. You know, I want to be
talk about.
Yeah, I want to be on paper in the game store playing the game because to me that's what a TCG is. And so, I went from reasonable ideas to out there ideas, but this is my hope for the year. I want to show up to the game store and fire every week, not every now and then.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. You also are the only one among us that has kids, right? And getting out of the house is a good escape to that sort of concept as well, right? Where it's like, hey, I get some peace and some some me time, which I think is fair. I just have a hard time saying like, oh, take legal action, and I honestly, it's even like a thing that I'm not even sure if we should be talking about here on the podcast, which is us going behind the scenes a little bit. I think that there are pros and cons. Oh yeah, a little uncomfortable based on a lot of it. But yeah, I think when you look back at it, it kind of reminds me of this concept as I was like playing like competitive Fortnite during the pandemic and stuff like that. And there are things that happen that have unintended consequences. So like when Fortnite started, like building was a relatively simple concept that not everybody did. I'm sure you guys have seen it in some form or fashion. And then they launched practice modes. They launched Playground, which gave you 3 hours to do whatever you wanted with your friends. You still had to gather resources, but the building skill gap went way up there. Then they launched this mode called Creative, which was even more immersive. You could build practice maps that you could just practice building, editing, all this and more. And the skill ceiling exploded, and it caused Epic, the creators of Fortnite, to make a non-building mode because the players were so outpaced and stuff like that. It made getting into the game harder. And I do think having these sorts of opportunities for different platforms does raise the skill ceiling faster than it would otherwise.
Yeah, totally fair. And I'm not saying there's not upsides to it. I was just taking it from the perspective of how do we get people back into the game store, right? So I was not advocating for it necessarily. I just was throwing it out there.
I was having some technical difficulties. So anything that was said, I don't endorse. It's on these two. I'm here doing whatever. Shout out Mickey Mouse. All right. The thing that I'll say as my hope here, as we have a good connection, is that I just hope we get value in the product. I think that one of the concepts of why people aren't showing up is because they have no freaking reason to, right? Like they get a weekly play pack that might have a legendary, and if that's a cool thing, that's nice. But you get a play pack, you get 3 packs, you get $2 worth of value, you get the best legendary in the set, it's worth $15. That needs to change. We've talked about it ad nauseum. I think that they're on board with these changes. They understand these different market forces, and I just think we need to bring value into the experience of playing, whether it's value going to the game store, value playing Twin Suns, value going to an event like a SQ, RQ, or Galactics. There needs to be value in the experience as well as the great gameplay, as well as the getting to play our favorite Star Wars IP and all these different things,
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, so you're saying your hope is that maybe when you open a pack, you get some value out of it. Was that the way to summarize it? Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So, like,
feeling.
I buy and sell cards. I like being able to say, oh, I got this shiny thing that's worth a fair amount of money. And it's not just about a financial perspective, but just value all around. Like, I think it needs to be more rewarding to the user to be involved in these things, whether it is the in-person, local, or otherwise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have a different take on value actually for mine, which is an interesting segue. I wasn't expecting to
Please
line up. I don't really derive as much value from the prices of cards, but in this case, value of my time and bandwidth, I think. And at some point, the logistics issues that they have continuously seen throughout each of the large events that we've been to are starting to kind of wear on me. And I think they're taking steps in the right direction, but things like not even like I got my Yaddle a week ago from the sector in Portland, right? That has to stop. Like they got to do a better job of getting the preparedness part. No missing promo cards at the big events. I want to know every regional and sector for the rest of the year personally, but I'd be fine with a few months notice, and they did better this set. Things like that. That needs to be it needs to be really easy for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go buy the plane ticket now, or I'm gonna spend money on this now. I'm not gonna want to think about it. I'm not gonna want to like add that to my mental load on top of trying to come in and compete with some of the best players in the world at various places to also add into, well, I don't know if I can make it, especially if they tell me 2 weeks from now when it's going to be, where it's going to be, etc. Like there's a lot of background things I think that they are working to improve, but they need to continue that and not drop the ball again on things like that. And that for me would be what I want to see in 26. No
Yeah.
more complaint, no more massive lines at Galactics because someone bought all those super laser blasts. No more didn't have the promo on hand because someone screwed up. So like, guys, come on.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even matter what the topic is. It's no more X, no more Y. We need like an A year. We need an A minus year in terms of that.
We're going into year
right?
3.
Like
You should have
we
this
talk
figured out
about
by
the
now.
things that we can control as people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, those are our hopes for 2026, and some new hopes, some old ones, and we'll see how they play out as we do this next year. I think it's really good to sit down, talk about these things. There's a lot of SWU, there's a lot of week to week in this business, right? It's what's the next meta, what's the next deck. We have to be on to the next, whether it's set by set, day by day, or game by game. But being able to reflect on these things, looking forward and backwards, I think is really useful as we all play a game that we love and want to see succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about our hopes and we got into some different topics that were, some things we'd like to see better, that sort of thing. But I want to make sure that, it's coming through that I'm super excited to play this game. I can't wait to play SWU for another year and another year after that and another year after that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want this game to continue and to grow, and I can't wait to be a part of it. So, I want to end it, very positive. I love this game, right? I still think it's a great game and can't wait to play more of it.
Agreed. And I'm just as much looking forward to rotation too, to see what the game morphs into as well. So like there's a lot of interesting stuff coming this year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of positive, very few bits of negative. But we have to talk about the negative when it comes up because that's our job to do this and make weird thumbnails and stuff. But really good stuff talking about all this. And I think the game is like Kyle said, for me, it's the most mechanically fun game that I've played ever. Right, I'm
Same.
going back to playing Pokemon when I was top 50, like going through every TCG of the early 2000s and still playing like the Lord of the Rings game online. That's what I want. I want to look back at this game 15 years from now, 20 years from now, and see that people are still playing. Right. It goes a long way to see it. So that's all we got for this little special edition of the pod. We have a midday matchup coming up later this week. Still working on the deck selections, right, Kyle? But we'll get that event posted for you guys on YouTube. And just from all of us here at the Cantina Crew, really appreciate your support. Hopefully you have a great 2026. Hope you had a great 2025 as well. But we appreciate you, and we're excited for more content coming your way. So for Kyle and Sharkey, I'm Jordan from the Cantina Crew. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.